Sorry about that, everyone. Let's get started again. But as I said, it was a long time in coming what we're experiencing here today, this ribbon cutting on this incredible project. But I also take great hope that this will not be the last, but the first of many. We just had a housing roundtable, a listening session for me, and what I heard was the communities like Harrison and Westchester and all throughout the state, they want more housing built. And this is a perfect example of what can be done. People roll up their sleeves, overcome the barriers, and really shoot their sights so high. And we're showcasing today a transit-oriented development project. If you ever wondered what that means, transit-oriented development, TOD, just look out the window. This is what we're talking about, showcasing what we can deliver and how much New Yorkers' lives can improve. And I want to thank everyone who's been so involved in this. I do want to thank our mayor, Dionisio, mayor of Harrison, for his support for this project and his excitement about putting Harrison on the map with showing the capabilities when a community works together, what can be accomplished. Mayor, let's give him a round of applause. We have my partners in government at the state level. We have Senator Shelley Mayer. Thank you, Shelley, for joining us. Assembly Member Chris Burdick has joined us. I believe Steve Otis is coming. Steve Otis is here. Well, Steve's on his way. Also, we have our mayors from our neighboring communities. I want to thank our mayor of White Plains, I think, is in the house. Mayor Roche is here. You got any other mayors? Many? I don't see everybody. Oh, Noam Bramson, I want to thank you for joining us. Michelle. And our county executive, George Latimer, who you'll be hearing from in a few moments. Thank you, George, for being a true ally in our efforts to make sure that we respond to the needs of our constituents, your constituents, to build more housing. And so I thank you for all your work. We also have Jamie Torrey Springer, the president of MTA Construction Development. Jamie, thank you for getting this done. Kathy Rinaldi, who's the president of Metro North. Mitch Borlesa, the Senior Vice President of Avalon, who shepherded this project through to great success. And someone who has traveled every corner of the state in pursuit of building more housing. And that is our great Commissioner of Housing Community Renewal, Ruth Ann Visnauskas. And to all the people in the development community, the MTA, the advocates who are here, those who support housing. And I just want to say, I was just here a few months ago in March. We had a roundtable of business leaders and elected leaders. I was over in Rybrook. And we talked about the challenges. Why is this so complicated? And you think about the future of a place like Westchester. This county is on fire. You think about the state-of-the-art transportation, the thriving healthcare institutions, the growing economy. Regeneron, just up the road, with $1.8 billion of investment. We are there for their milestones in Tarrytown. Lionsgates. Who would have thought this county would be the epicenter of new production, film production? Hollywood on the Hudson, nearing a completion. And up the road at IBM, a $20 billion investment in semiconductor and quantum computing. We were up there with the president to announce this. A lot of great things are going. But guess what is needed at the foundation of all this progress? You need people to work in these facilities, but the people need a place to live. See the connection? The success of the economy of a county like Westchester depends on providing housing to attract people. And it has to be housing that people can afford. And as long as there are shortages in supply, that'll naturally drive up the price. That is what our residents are witnessing right now in the rental market as well as in housing. So we are focused on solving this for these businesses, for these communities, because if you don't keep growing, you stagnate and you decline. We will not let that happen here in the great state of New York, and especially not here in Westchester. So let's... So we all know how desirable these communities are. They're extraordinary. I've been coming to Westchester since I used to pal around with Congresswoman Anita Lowy. I was a brand new member of Congress, and she brought me to some of the restaurants and the bars, and she was so proud of living in this fantastic community. So I saw this many, many years ago. And I know she's proud, and I'm proud. When it comes to building housing, Harrison is leading by example. Now, we talked about a plan last year. We talked about how it would be important to achieve the goal of building 800,000 new housing units to meet the demand of New York over the next decade if every community could grow at a rate of 1% increase a year. 1%. Harrison is just remarkable with a 6% increase in the past year. That's what I'm talking about. That happened organically and is a proof point that it can be done in our desirable communities that have the benefit of having a train station, transit-oriented development, and we can show this throughout the state. So that's what I'm doing. I want the naysayers to see this. Come here, take a look at this project, walk around, talk to residents as they're grabbing that cup from Starbucks when they live here and taking a train ride 45 minutes down the road, down the tracks, and they can have their job in Midtown. Or reverse commuting. People can take the train and live here as well. And if we don't start doing that, if we don't start making up for a lot of lost time, then there will be suffering. What am I talking about? The kids who grew up here with great public libraries, we just had our meeting at the library, the great public schools, the great amenities, the quality of life that is second to none, they become adults. They want their kids to be raised here as well, near grandma and grandpa, mostly for babysitting, I'm sure. But they can't, because their own children, despite all these advantages, cannot find a place to live in the community they're raised in. That, to me, is a tragedy. But also, young people starting out in their career, young teachers, firefighters, police officers, people working in technology, people working in healthcare, they don't start out in life being able to afford luxury housing or huge single-family homes. They just don't. Nobody does. So if they can't live here, we lose them as well. And our seniors who built their lives here, who never ever entertained leaving the community when they didn't need that big house anymore. They want to live here in suitable housing for them with others. And that's not available, then they have nowhere to go. So we have an opportunity. This is a point in our nation's history, but particularly New York State's history, where we can lean hard into fighting these problems, lean hard into the challenges. And yes, they can be daunting to some, and which is probably why no one talked about this all these years when this was unfolding. But we have a housing plan that is transformative, that meets the moment. And that's what I'm building support for with showcasing this project here today. And I need the legislature to work with us as well. When they hear from the elected leaders, the mayors and supervisors, that maybe they weren't right in what they were saying about a project last year because they didn't understand the dynamics. This is what I'm learning. We didn't talk about every community has to have enormous high-rises overflowing with affordable housing or low-income housing. We weren't talking about that, but that became the narrative. That hijacked the true message of allowing a community to build what they want to build, but just start building. It didn't have to be affordable, although there was advantages to do affordable. And I'm talking about transit-oriented development, what we're talking about and seeing right here. So in the meantime, while we wait for the legislature to come back into session, roll up our sleeves and solve this once and for all, I took executive actions. I was able to amass over $650 million into one fund, which will support growth in our pro-housing communities. What does that mean? There'll be criteria put out by our housing community renewals offices, where communities that want to be part of this narrative, be part of the growth of this state, can meet criteria, pass a resolution before your legislature or your city council or your town board, committing to certain goals. Talk about how you're willing to break down barriers, rezonings where you need them, And we will be able to reward those communities with an advantage when it comes to our discretionary funding. Secondly, I will be am committed to reducing the regulatory burdens that exist today. There's so many regulations people can point to as a reason they don't have to go forward. Let's look at all those. Let's find out what they are and find out whether or not we can get around them and start making progress. I've also called on all state agencies to look for every square foot of abandoned, underutilized, vacant property that can be used and repurposed for housing. So I'm doing what I can now to build housing, everything in my power. But we're also going to track success. I want these pro-housing communities to share with us their data. Let's give them credit for the growth they've already accomplished. Let's look at that. This didn't just happen today. Communities like Harrison have been working on this for 16 years, this project. 16 years. A baby born that year is now driving a car in the time it took to build this project. I say no more. Projects like this, yes, but delays like that, no more. And I know that's exactly what we need to do to meet the demand. So I've made a real point of listening to people in our communities, elected officials. I spent 14 years as a local official. Communities just like this. I understand the pressure people are under, but you also are in a position of leadership. You also can go out there and dispel the myths, talk to the naysayers, tell the truth about what we're trying to achieve and the benefits for your community if we continue to grow and not stagnate. So, take a look out the window, absorb this. This is a day where people in this community finally can realize what we've been talking about. And I want to make sure that we realize this was a parking lot. Nothing offends me more than a single-story, ground-level parking lot, because I see an opportunity to put, yes, more parking, quadrupling the amount of parking, doubling the amount of parking by putting parking garages or ramps above ground or underground. But encircling that with housing, units for people to live in, they literally could wake up in the morning, throw on their clothes, grab that cup of coffee, and be on a train. That is the definition of a quality of life. It's beautiful in its simplicity, and that's what I want to do all across our region. So it's all about connecting people to transit. The transit's there, get them living close by, and it's a recipe for success. So right now we're talking about 143 new apartments, 758 parking spaces, because people want to be in Harrison, but you have to find a place to park, right, Mayor? 475 of which are reserved for the public and commuters, and we'll have over 5,000 square feet for amenities and 27,000 square feet of street-level retail and commercial space, helping someone start that business they've always dreamed of. And also what's impressive, this wasn't funded by the MTA. It was not MTA capital dollars that need to be spent here. It was paid for by Avalon, who did this amazing work. So if you're looking at how we can continue to make this happen, I need more developers like Avalon to do exactly what they did here. So, you know the advantages. We've been clear. I think this is an opportunity to talk about what we really have had in mind all along. Let the communities embrace the opportunity to grow. The state is your ally and your partner and will help you make that happen. So let's get it done. Let's make sure we continue making progress. We're going to continue making progress with great leaders that we have right here in Westchester County. And I want to thank George Latimer for all he has done to help promote our initiatives to allow us to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, George Latimer.
Thank you very much, Governor, and we appreciate your presence here in Harrison and Westchester. She's no stranger to Westchester. She's been here frequently for a variety of different initiatives, and we appreciate your leadership on housing and on a host of other issues for other communities. What we're looking at today is a combination of things that represent the future if we can figure out how to make that future happen. The first thing that you see, and I congratulate the Mayor Supervisor Dionisio, his predecessor, Mayor Supervisor Belmont is here, and members of the town board who are here, and past members. It took a long time to get this to marketplace, but the bottom line is they've made it happen here in Harrison. And this is not the only part of Harrison. If you go on the campus of SUNY Purchase, you'll see some units that are being developed there as well. That's on state-owned property, and once again, a creative use of available land. This was a parking lot that could be converted into this setting, and in Purchase, a different setting that could be converted into housing. I'm here today with some of the key leaders of the county government. Our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, is with us here today. Our Director of Operations, who's really the brains of the outfit, Joan McDonald, is here today, and other people that are involved in the day-to-day activities of the county in trying to implement what the governor has set. And the governor is right to set a goal for all of us. And I view the goal as 3% as a countywide responsibility where we work with the local governments in cooperative fashion. I don't want to tell a local government what to do, but I want to work with them side by side and accomplish this mission. And as John F. Kennedy said at the Berlin Wall, let them come to Berlin, let them come to Harrison, but let them come to New Rochelle, where Noam Bramson and the leadership of that city has made transit-oriented development a tremendous improvement and a change in their community. Let them come to White Plains, where Tom Roach has done the exact same thing in the city of White Plains, with the political support of the people in his community, working through all of the different issues and developing housing and affordable housing as part of those efforts. And it's not just limited to downtown Yonkers and Mike Spano. Go just down the line to the village of Mamaroneck. You'll see new units that have gone up in different places. There's an Avalon project there, about a decade plus old, but other infill situations that are new housing right by the train station in Mamaroneck. The same is true if you go up to Rye, go up to Portchester, 2 stops up the line. On the books in Portchester are numerous different projects. All of those things were done because the local government saw the priority, and then the county government assists where we can. The IDA, which is headed by Joan McDonald, helped incent this project. But when our guest from Avalon Bay comes to speak, he'll say some things at this level, but what's deep below that is how hard it is to bring to market any type of construction in this day and age. And when you get to the point of the ribbon cutting, it smiles, but all of the grief, the financing, getting the site plan in a way where there's infrastructure improvements that have to be made. At every turn, there's a possibility that a project could fall off the table. So it takes tremendous diligence and overcoming those objections. And I think our job, as proven by the cities and the villages and the towns in Westchester and by the county, is we're there to help overcome those obstacles. And the state, under Commissioner Wisnauskas and under my friends in the state legislature who've done a terrific job helping us with our revenue streams, we're able to be there because for this to happen, it took cooperation across a wide range of entities. It took a bureaucracy the size and scope of MTA. It took the state of New York, the county, the town. It took a host of other things to make this happen. And that's the path to success. It comes through cooperation, mutual respect, and working through the obstacles that occur in developing these projects. I'm very happy to introduce the next speaker, who is the head of the Metropolitan Transit Authority. Any night I go to bed at night and I watch the 11 o'clock news, I look for any stories about Westchester that represent a headache for me. There's always a couple, but not that many. But I watch my friend who has responsibility for the Long Island Railroad, the New York City bus and subway system, the Metro-North Railroad, and other things, other assets that I'm not even aware that he's got. Every time I see him, he's got a smile on his face. We opened a new bridge in Mount Vernon a year ago, and it's a joyous moment. But I'm sure when he goes to bed at night, he's got more than his share of headaches, but he's done a brilliant job along with Kathy Rinaldi. Jano Lieber. Mr. Lieber.
Thank you, County Executives. That was about the most accurate introduction I ever got. And thank you, Governor. You've been so forceful about the issue of New York stepping up to meet its housing needs, and everybody in the state owes you a debt of gratitude for that. And we at the MTA stand ready to continue to cooperate with you every step of the way to make it real, because we have to do something about the housing crisis. So thank you for your leadership. This project is a perfect example of what is meant when the phrase TOD, transit-oriented development, is used. Got housing, beautiful new housing, close to transit so people don't have to own as many cars and they don't have to use them as frequently. As the governor said, these are the units that are custom designed for seniors who want to get out of that big house that's now too big for them, but want to stay close to their friends and the community they've cultivated their whole lives. That's incredibly important, and in a walkable area. That's key. You know, we sometimes talk about New York City as a NORC, a naturally occurring retirement community, but that's because of transit. That's because of walkability. That's because of access to things of interest right there. Young singles, families, Governor mentioned it, who are ready to who want to stay in a community or establish a foothold in the community, but are not ready to buy the house of their dreams for their family. And we all know that this kind of development helps to enliven village and town downtowns. That's what Mayor Branson's been doing. That's what the mayor of White Plains has been doing. That's what the county executive and so many of you have been doing here, which is creating communities where the street is lively and people want to come downtown. And we already see the development that is taking place just opposite this amazing project. So we want to see this happen. We thank everybody who's been involved. We also want to have it happen on Long Island. We are started well along on a project in Westbury that is based on very similar principles. Underutilized parking facilities, build a structured parking lot, add to parking, but also over less of a footprint, and therefore you have the opportunity to build hundreds of units of housing. Listen, Metro North is ready to carry more people. Ridership has been growing by the week. It really has been. We're obviously in a little bit of a summer vacation lull, but all of the trends have been extremely positive, exceeding expectations. And the service, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not loving on Kathy Rinaldi, who runs Metro North, you ought to be. 97% on-time performance. And none of this would have been possible if we didn't have a governor who saw that it was time to deal with the budget issues brought on by COVID at the MTA. And this year in the budget process put us in a trajectory where literally last month I was able to project 5 years of balanced budgets. The MTA has never done it before. Kathy Hochul did it together with the legislature, leaders like Senator Shelley Mayer, and we are so grateful that you put transit on a firm footing so we can help to rebuild and contribute to this rebuilding. Before I finish, I have to thank the MTA folks who have done so much to make today possible, literally hundreds of people on the team, but I'll call out a couple of them. Greg Sylvester, who managed the project for more years than anyone cares to admit. Nick Roberts from MTA Construction Development. From Metro North, hold your applause, we're going to get them all in. Robin Hollander, Linda Corcoran, Vahak Kajekian, and Andrea Asher and Susan Sarch, who are the lawyers who, we talked, the county executive talked about some of the complexities. These are really complicated projects, so we rarely say it, but God bless the lawyers too. And the entire Metro North maintenance of way and operational staff that makes a project like this possible when you have to do outages, when you have to manage the impact on operations. Thank you, Metro North. So with that, let me turn it over to the people who, as a mostly reformed real estate developer, I get to introduce the folks who developed this and are going to run this housing, Mitch Forlenza of Avalon.
Thank you, Mr. Lieber, and thank you all for joining us. 12 years ago, in June 2011, the MTA and Metro North Railroad, along with the town of Harrison, issued a request for proposals for a mixed-use, transit-oriented development to be located on this site. Avalon Bay was then selected as the developer in November of 2012, beginning a multi-year process of obtaining the discretionary approvals required to make this development a reality. At our groundbreaking ceremony in the spring of 2019, then Mayor Belmont called it the second greatest day in the history of Harrison. And I think about that a lot. The first, of course, being the Townsend Corporation. And I can assure you that for the last 4 years, everyone at Avalon Bay has felt the responsibility of building a community that measured up to that statement. I've been with Avalon Bay for over 27 years, working on over 60 communities. And I can say that Avalon Harrison was one of the most challenging projects we've ever had to build. From the technical and administrative obstacles to the challenge of building and leasing up through a global pandemic, we could not have reached this day without the perseverance of so many people. I'd like to specifically thank Mayors Belmont and Dionisio, Town Planner Pat Cleary, Mike Amadeo, Megan Piraz, Police Chief John Vasta, and Police Captain William Curo with the Town of Harrison. I'd also like to extend our deepest gratitude to Jano Lieber, Greg Sylvester, and Rob Gazavoda with the MTA, whose close partnership was instrumental in this project's success. Avalon Bay is fortunate to work with some of the best design professionals in the business, and I'd like to acknowledge Stuart Lax, Meredith Taubin, and Alex Hidalgo with Perkins Eastman Architects, Shane Wise with R.W. Sullivan Engineering, David Guzis with D. Simone Consulting Engineers, Joe Ursho with SLR Consulting, and Barry Decker with Con Edison. Finally, I'd like to recognize several associates from Avalon Bay whose persistence and dedication were vital to making this community a reality. Our development team was led by John Vogel and Chris Reynolds, who are unfortunately unable to be here today, and they were assisted by Stephanie Santangelo, for whom we have all this to thank. Our construction management team was led by Glenn Moran, with the support of Greg Rabars and Andrea Bogdani. Our field team was led by Bob Akampora, assisted by Paul Surmay, Billy Jacobson, and Clarence Ellington. And our residential services team is led by Amber Matheny, along with managers Chad Hinckley, Marcus Spears, and Kathy Bookus, and our on-site team of Carlos Guerrero, Stephen Calabrese, Pat Annunziata, Claire Barrios, and Delta Caban. I want to express my deepest gratitude to these individuals who willed this project to a successful completion. Thank you all so very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Rich Dionisio.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the residents and myself, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. There's so many dignitaries here, I won't be able to remember everyone's name, but especially I'd like to thank the governor. It was so historic having you here today, and something I'll never forget. Thank you so much.
Please remain seated for the ribbon cutting.